Good afternoon, my name is Tom. I come to you from northern Maine. Today we're going to be talking about deer season. What do you do before opening day of deer season? And specifically, what do you do with field hunting? If you have a field that you've picked out and you would like to hunt it, how do you go about hunting that field? And then on opening day, you get to the field and voila, there's another hunter that has made claim to that field, and he might be claiming it for the last 25 years. I know of a couple of fields like that they just move into it and they don't own the field, but they act like they own the field. And this is how you outfox that hunter. All right, it's opening morning and you're a happy camper. You get to your field, you're there, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, you're an hour early, everything is perfect. So you're coming down the road here. I got a little orange on here because most hunters can follow orange. But I'm really doing it because I want to make sure you can see. So you're driving down the road here and you're coming down, you're early, and you pull in, and oh, there's a pickup truck parked there. Now you already know someone else is sitting in that field. That's your first mistake. You never should have done this on opening morning. Back in September and back in October, this is where your pre-season scouting comes in. Because almost every field that you go to is going to have a hunter in it, especially in this state. Fields are nice. They're like orchards, apple orchards. Fields is where they feed. So you need to know where they're bedding. You need to know where they're coming from their bedding to their feed plot, which would be this field. But what happens is the feed plot, 99% of the time, has always got someone in it. I don't care if it's Monday through Friday or Saturday. And if all you have is Saturdays to hunt, you got 4 in this state, there's always going to be a hunter in that field. So how do you solve this problem of the other hunter being in that field? You don't. You let him have it. He's been hunting there. He claims that field. He doesn't own it, but he claims it. This is his private hunting grounds. Until he dies, probably, because he's already done it, or his family does it, whatever. It doesn't matter. Let him have it. He can have that whole field. Like I said earlier, I've never shot I won't say never, I shot one time. One time I was sitting in a field, actually I was sitting I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll tell you that in a minute. Let him have that field. Don't bother him, don't park here. Don't anything. Now you've blown this season because you waited until opening day. So let's back up to September, to what you should have done, which is pre-season scouting every single year. And after a while, you'll have a treasure trove of information. If you've been pre-season scouting for 20 years, you'll have lots and lots of spots. You won't have just one field. You'll have all kinds of opportunity. Because you've taken notes. Have a diary. Write down what you see. Write down the time you saw it. Do stuff like that so that you can pull it forward, 10 years from now and look at your information and just put a plan together. Now around every single field, the big bucks never come out to the field first. The does always come out to the field. In this state, it's a buck-only state, outside of a permit for a doe. So keep that in mind. At 4 o'clock, this field could have does in it, but it's not going to have that big buck. I guarantee it. That big buck, he's going to be down here in the woods. This green line right here, this is my field. All of these right here, these are trees that go around the field. This orange line that you see, this is a deer run. Now, I know because I know what's on the other side of this road. So I know what makes this a good spot. to why there's a whole bunch of cedars over here, and it's a really good bedding area. So they bed down over there. They also bed down, this is a travel line, they come down here and they bed down in this area. Probably about 3/4 of a mile from the corner of this field is another bedding area. So because you came in September and you scouted this out and you found this orange line, and you know this is another year, you know this guy is up here, you can let him have that field. Because where you want to hunt is on this line. Anywhere, really. Now what I look for, I hope the camera can see it. What I look for, and I know these runs because these are runs that I personally scouted out. I know this run is here. You can walk the edge of this field in September and you'll find these runs. These runs will be very pronounced, they'll be very wide, and they'll be matted down like cattle have been through. Because that's mostly because of the does, has not a whole lot to do with the bucks. But on one year, I always set, and I have a field that I set with binoculars, and one year I had like 6 bucks down in one corner, and we had does coming out on these different runs. That was in September, well before bow season. But you see over here where these runs meet, you got one run coming up, you got another run coming here, and it comes into this back corner of the field, and another run coming here. So I have 3 or 4 runs that will meet right here. The deer can come down this way and walk their field. The bucks can come in this way. There's all kinds. So I got 4 or 5 runs that meet at one spot. That makes this, to me, the best spot on that field. So where am I going to set? You got a hunter setting over here. I'm going to set over here. I'm going to get back in the woods, probably, 100 yards, give or take. And I'm going to build me a ground blind. It's going to be behind a couple of big trees, and I'm going to sit, and that's exactly where I'm going to sit. Now I'm going to tell you how we're going to do this. Now to this hunter, he thinks he's got the best spot in the field. He's claimed it. The road to come in, I actually put the vehicle on the wrong side. The road to come in is right here. So any hunters that park out here and try to come in, they're crossing him. They're going to see him there. And so he thinks he owns this whole field. Because 9 times out of 10, they're going to go somewhere else because this field is taken up. But he doesn't have the best spot. He thinks he's got the best spot, but he doesn't have the best spot. The bucks are not going to come out in this field before it is dark. I guarantee it. Once in a while, you might get one. Now, I've been hunting a long time, and I have shot bucks in a field, but it's rare. If you want a deer every year, hunting in a field's not the place to do it. So let him think that he's got the best spot in the field. He's smiling ear to ear. He's got the king's seat. He's sitting on the throne. Let him sit on the throne. Don't even let him think that you're in the area. Park your vehicle somewhere else, down the road. All of these fields usually have a back door where you can get to by 4-wheeler, you can get to on foot, or you can get to by just playing a different dirt road. So in your scouting, scout that out. Find the back door in. Even if you got to walk the whole length of this field, from a different area, do it. It's worth it. Because at dark, say you shot a deer in here, right at sunset, last half hour, chances are really good he's either going to be gone. A lot of times I see these guys leave a half hour before sunset. I just don't see people sitting out there till the last minute. Not all of them. I'm not going to say that it doesn't happen. It does happen. But I'm saying the majority of the hunters in this state now are pretty lazy hunters. So if you shot a deer back here at 4:30, 4:45, which is still legal time, you can drag that deer right out to the road. You don't got to drag it back through the woods because he'll probably be gone. You can wait if you want to or whatever, but you can drag him out to the field, then you can drag him right across the field. And you took a buck right out from underneath his nose. Now, back in September and October, now you want to be scouting this right into just before deer season. Now what you're looking for, all these runs are going to come in to the field. And like I said earlier, a lot of them are going to be a doe. Most of them will be doe runs. But here's what you're looking for. And even alongside of this one, a lot of times you'll have a major deer run. That's a doe, usually. Off to the side of it, you might find another very lightly used deer run. That's your buck run. And it's the same thing when they go out into these fields. Look for the run that looks very underused or looks very old. Because a lot of you got to remember, sometimes in these doe runs, there might be 6 does a day using it, 3-4 times a day, at least twice in the morning, and probably twice at night, and maybe even at noontime. So of course these runs are going to look very well worn, very easy to find. What you're looking for is that run that is not very well used, and that's probably your buck run. So keep that in mind while you're doing your September and October scouting. And then once you found that run that we're talking about, once you found that run that doesn't look like a doe run and probably is a buck run, that's what I do in this corner here. Lots of traffic. The more runs you can get, the more traffic you're going to have, and the more chances you're going to have of cutting off a buck. And then camp out. Take that spot and camp out. Sit there all day long if you can, if the weather is right, and if you can lug in a portable tree stand, camp out, climb a tree and camp out, because you're really upping your odds for a buck. So stay tuned to the end of this video to find out why this hunter right here doesn't have the best spot in that field. I'm gonna put the answer to why he doesn't have a good spot somewhere in this video. So you're just gonna have to watch it to find out where. But I guarantee you, you're a much smarter hunter than him if you follow some of the tips that are in this video to how to pull a buck out of this field when there is a hunter already placed in that field. You wait and see why that's not the best seat in the field. All right, I forgot to give you the answer to why that guy doesn't have the best seat before I erased my drawing. So, there's the deer hunter. Here's my ground blind. It's a very simple answer. Very, very simple. The reason this guy doesn't have the best seat is because that buck, about 10 minutes before dark, he's going to be out here. Somewhere along that field, he's going to be about 5 to 10 minutes from that field. And for him, he only takes 1 or 2 little short steps at a time. So I figure 10 minutes to a buck, maybe a couple 100 yards. He's not going to come running right in. He's going to take his time. So this guy up here, he thinks he's got the best seat in town. Reality is, I've got the best seat in town, because I'm going to see that buck about 10 minutes to 15 minutes before this guy up here has a chance to see him. Because if that buck comes in on this run in any direction, I'm going to see him before he steps out in that field. So, if you pick up any tips out of this video today, you're going to have the best seat in that field every single year. Because this guy up here, he's been doing that since the beginning of time. In his mind, he owns the field. And in reality, you own the field. And you can set anywhere. Find your runs. Find where that buck is going to be setting. And if you need to change your blind area during the season to help you accomplish that, then change it. Whatever it takes. But remember, stay 100 yards, 200 yards in from that field. That's it. That's the answer to the story. And the other story I left out was 1 year I shot a 200+ pound buck standing right in the middle of the field. I was out here in my area. I could look through and I could see the field from my tree stand, but I did not have a shot because this is where I hunt. I don't worry about that field. Now luckily it was a field that no one was in that day, but I look over my shoulder and there's a 200 pound, he had a massive rack on him, and I shot that buck. I had to climb out of my tree stand. I had to close the gap of 100 yards between here and the field, and then I shot my buck. I hunted that particular field for 15 years. That was the only time I ever saw a buck in that field. The reason he was in that field was because down in this corner here, there was a half a dozen does. When I got out, this line wasn't there. When I got out to that field and saw the buck, I looked down here and there was a half a dozen does, and that buck was looking at those does. I shot the buck, one shot, right through the heart and lung, and he ran about, I don't know, 200 yards this way. And I had a, so I'm going to get into my next video. My next video will be about this buck, because there's actually a lot more to it. There's a stream down here, and I have a canoe up here. So in the next video, which will come out right after this one, I will talk about this buck more and how I took him out of that particular field. But even in that field, most nights was a deer hunter. I was fortunate that night there wasn't another hunter in that field. And that field was 1,000 yards at least. And so is this field here that I was talking about today. So, as I said, you'll have the best seat in the house.